The streets are blocked by a huge crowd of Muslim worshippers, and it's enforced by private security. This is all illegal in France. The public worship, the blocked streets, and the private security. But the police have been ordered not to intervene.
Good evening and welcome to the rest of the news. We have a tremendous program lined up for you this evening, and our special guest is General Carl Black, U.S. Air Force retired. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you. Good to be here.
You were a flying general.
I flew from the first year I went in till the last year, just 5 days before my retirement. Never had a year when I wasn't in the cockpit.
We have a lot of problems that we want to talk about, and the solution to these problems. In the first place, this is a letter that I have written recently, and I'd like to explain this a little bit and send you a copy of it. In this letter, it says a Catholic nun in Lebanon told a reporter that ISIS is infiltrating along with refugees that are being brought into the United States by the Obama administration and the United Nations, and that there's 70,000 of them that they're bringing in. On the other hand, there's another 300,000 Christian refugees in Syria and surrounding areas that they will not let in. The Obama administration is bringing in more and more Muslims, but not the Christian refugees. Bobby Jindal, who is the governor of Louisiana, said that these Muslims are not coming over here to become American citizens, but they're coming over here to establish Sharia law and basically to take us over. And that's what Obama seems to be doing, is bringing in more and more Muslims so he can get more and more people under Sharia law or into the Muslim way of thinking.
People are so concerned about what is happening to this country, and the emphasis on Muslims since our current president has been in office. Now, the question that I've been asked, and I ask myself, is if someone is not a Muslim, then why are they so concerned about bringing in all these Muslims?
Right.
This same someone who said that we are no longer a Christian nation, but then continued by saying, but we may be a Muslim nation. Well, excuse me, but I don't recall when Columbus set foot on shore that the Muslims met him.
That's right, that's right.
I don't believe it. They did.
You know, we have examples in Europe of what has happened when more and more Muslims are brought into a country. And we've all heard about what happened in France, and that has been recorded. And we wanted like to show you for just a few minutes what is happening in France with this imposition of more and more Muslims and the no-go zones.
White French being beaten up by predominantly Muslim immigrant gangs. Violent crime can happen anywhere and to anyone, and for many reasons. But in parts of France, it has become especially dangerous to be white.
There are parts of France where the native French are no longer welcome. Muslim immigrants consider it their territory, and whites enter at their own risk.
The French call them sensitive urban zones. They're no-go zones where the police don't enter or don't enforce the law. They're little Muslim caliphates inside the borders of France.
And it's like that because these parts of the country are in the hands of drug traffickers, gangs, and imams.
This French report says almost 1 in 5 Frenchmen have been victims of racist insults or worse. A few cases have even gone to trial.
Some of those who launch racist attacks on whites use Islam as the reason they do it. They may not even speak Arabic, but they still use Islam as a flag.
Tariq Yildiz, a French sociologist, has written the book Anti-White Racism. Yildiz is not native French, but is the son of Turkish immigrants.
My book is viewed as politically incorrect and breaks a taboo, the idea that immigrants could oppress whites.
It's a reality for this Frenchman named Max. He's been attacked more than once by immigrants and still has a bruise under one eye from the latest attack. Max sports an American accent after living in the U.S., but he's French and has joined Generation Identitaire, a youth movement united around the defense of French culture and white French identity.
Well, basically, we're a youth movement that aims to promote, preserve, and protect our local, national, and European identities.
This video shows Generation Identitaire members training for self-defense.
Well, we encourage all our members and militants to keep a certain level of physical fitness. Self-defense is a part of it, obviously.
As the French left's grand experiment in multiculturalism goes up in flames, some quarters of French society are dividing into tribalism and ethnic identity. Pierre Cassen and Christine Tesson are anti-Islamization activists.
The French people are increasingly living in fear. They fear the imposition of Islamic law and the organized violence against any French person, including the police.
More and more Islamists threaten riots, assault, and try to impose Sharia. They attack the police. The Republic is in danger.
This French news report shows Generation Identitaire members out on a security patrol. Yildiz says by ignoring the problem of immigrant attacks on whites, the French establishment and media are only helping to ensure that more whites will seek out groups like Generation Identitaire for protection.
If the state will not punish these people and the media will not talk about it, the victims will get increasingly frustrated and could become racist, and then we will have a confrontation.
Not only is the problem being ignored, the French left and many mayors actively promote the growth and spread of sectarian Islam, for good reason. Muslims have become an important constituency of the left. 90% voted for Socialist President Hollande in the last election. Former Muslim Pascal Halout wanted to show us the mosque in the Paris district of Barbès that the mayor's office is paying to renovate. The name of the mosque is in Arabic, so perhaps the French don't realize they're paying to renovate a mosque named Conquest.
So this is like another country inside France, yeah?
Yeah, the Libanization, the liberalization or Balkanization of France is beginning already with the help of the state of France.
Lebanon. It's a word some use to describe France's future as a nation divided and engulfed in sectarian conflict. Halout believes, as do many experts, that the French left's experiment with Islam is going to backfire badly.
The French feel outnumbered, outmaneuvered, and in the minority. If things continue at this rate, we will have the same situation as in Kosovo or Lebanon, civil war.
Dale Hurt, CBN News, Paris.
We were looking at that, you know, that man goes and slaps that girl right in the face.
Right, yeah.
I mean, this is something I think we may have talked about last time, but they have these Muslim rape gangs that go through the city and sexually attack girls, young girls.
Oh, yes.
And the police will not protect the girls, and they take the side of the Muslims, and when it goes to court, the judges take the side of the Muslims and not the girls.
Yes. But see, when the Muslims first come in, they're very kind, and there
Yes.
are those who will argue, "Oh, it's a peaceful religion,"
Yeah.
and you know, there are a few bad Muslims, but by and large, they're a very peaceful, quiet, nice group of people. However, there's strength in numbers, and
Yes.
as the numbers increase, and once they have a sizable force, then
Yeah.
they start demanding the Sharia law.
Yes.
And that's when the problems really start. And we have here in our own country, like Dearborn,
Yeah.
Michigan,
Yeah.
and
Detroit.
and Detroit, and there's areas where there are no-go zones for us right here in America.
Yeah.
And we're tolerating it, and we don't have to tolerate it at this point in time, but we are.
Well, and we just saw that guy slap that girl in the face, and I mean, this is unbelievable. And they ask these Muslims, "Well, why are you attacking these girls?" And they say, "Oh, well, that's part of our Sharia law."
Yeah. It's allowed. You know, rape. So many things are allowed under the Sharia law, and you know, I think back just a few years in Texas, when this one father executed. His two girls,
Yeah.
because one of them was dating an American boy, or
Yeah.
had dated an American boy, but Australia is now facing some of these problems also. And if I may, I would just like to tell you what Australia has done to try to correct the problem. Muslims who want to live under Islamic Sharia law were told on Wednesday to get out of Australia, as the government targeted radicals in a bid to head off potential terror attacks. Separately, Rudd, and this fellow Rudd was the prime minister at the time, he was angered by the Australian Muslims on Wednesday by saying that he supported spy agencies who were going to monitor the mosque. Now, he said immigrants, not Australians, must adapt. Take it or leave it. I am tired of the nation worrying about whether we are offending some individual or their culture. And since the terrorist attacks on Bali, we have experienced a surge in patriotism by all or majority of the Australians, which should be happening in this country.
Right.
Patriotism should be coming back, but it seems that we're being more and more withdrawn. But he went on to say, this culture has been developed over 2 centuries of struggles, trials, and victories by millions of men and women who have sought freedom. We speak mainly English, not Spanish, Lebanese, Arabic, Chinese, Japanese, Russian, or any other language. Therefore, if you wish to stay and become a part of our society, then learn the language. But you see, there again, it's what is happening in this country. Is we're allowing every group of people, whether they be Muslims or anyone else, to come in here and speak their own language, which is a giant step in how to destroy the country. He went on to say, furthermore, most Australians believe in God. And this is not some Christian right-wing political push, but a fact. Because Christian men and women on Christian principles founded this nation. Sounds like the United States, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And this is clearly documented. It is certainly appropriate to display it on the walls of our schools. If God offends you, then I suggest you consider another part of the world as your new home, because God is a part of our culture. Isn't that what we should be saying?
Right.
It has been for all these years. We will accept your beliefs, and we will not question why. And all we ask that you accept ours and live in harmony and peaceful enjoyment with us. This is our country, he's saying, our land and our lifestyle, and we will allow you every opportunity to enjoy all of this. But once you are done complaining, whining and griping about our flag, our pledge, and our Christian beliefs, or our way of life, I highly encourage you to take advantage of another great Australian freedom, the right to leave.
Wow.
If you aren't happy here, leave. We didn't force you to come here, and you asked to be here. So accept the country that accepted you. Now, I think that says it all, and the United States should take a lesson from this
Yeah.
and quit this backpedaling to make sure that we don't offend anyone at all.
Absolutely, absolutely. It seems to me like this Prime Minister said, someone needs to tell them this is America and we have a constitution here and we have our own laws, and if you don't want to obey our laws, then you ought to leave.
That's right.
Here's what the governor said. He said, the Muslims come here, they don't want to become American citizens. They want to make America become a Muslim nation.
So far, they're making great progress, and with the southern border wide open,
Yeah.
How do we know who's coming here?
And whether or not they're bringing bombs with them or
whatever.
Nuclear weapons from Iran or whatever they are doing. Now, this is a list of the percent of Muslims in different countries. And as I look through this, I see that when the Muslim percentage gets to be around 5%, then the Muslims, which previously were quiet and working with the America or with the people of the country, become hostile and start gangs and no-go zones and more beating people up and all of that. When they get to be around 5%, then they start trouble.
When they get get a good foothold, then up until then, it's peaceful, quiet, and nice, Mr. Nice Guy.
Yeah.
But after that, it's our rights. Then they start demanding, we want Sharia law. That is our history. We have lived under Sharia law, and that's what we want. And and we're backing off and letting them do it.
They need to realize that this is America, and we have the Constitution that give us our rights from God, and we're not Muslims, and we're not going to be a Muslim nation. They cannot come here and demand that we change our laws to their laws.
We might want to brief Congress on that same thing.
Exactly.
It seems like they have forgotten that, and the Senate, and the President, and it seems like Washington would be a nice place to go and start that.
Get the word out that we're not here to build a Muslim Sharia law nation, but we're here to be Americans, one nation under God, not under Allah, at church and at work, and let them know what's going on. And we need to get more and more calls into our elected officials in Washington.
70,000 Muslims that he's trying to bring in. Aren't there several thousand Christians that are also?
Absolutely. Can you believe that? And they're being tortured. We saw how they cut the heads off of those Egyptian Christians and burning them and attacking these children and all of that they are trying to attack the Christian. And Obama won't let the Christians into this country, but he will let more and more Muslims. Now, where's the sense in that?
Well, as I said early in the program, if someone is sponsoring the Muslims, this is supposed to be a Christian nation, and our president is supposed to be a Christian. How come that the Christians aren't given any thought, but the Muslims are? Perhaps our president is not the Christian, or is more of a Muslim, but he's always had a problem since he ran for office about things like pledging the allegiance to the flag, about when the national anthem is played,
Yeah.
that he stood there with hands to the crouch and ignored it all. And when a general officer asked him how come he didn't follow protocol when this occurred, he said, well, he'd always had a problem with that because the national anthem, for example, sounded like war. It had talked about bombs bursting in air and things of that nature. But maybe if they would simply change the national anthem to I'd like to teach the world to sing, that then he might.
Yeah, is that the pledge to the world or something?
Yeah, then he might be more interested in doing that, but that he had always had a problem with it.
He wants to fundamentally transform this nation.
And he said so.
Yeah.
And he went on to say that very thing. When I become president, I will seek a pact or an agreement to end hostilities between those who have been at war or in a state of enmity, and of freedom from disquieting oppressive thoughts. We as a nation have placed upon the nations of Islam an unfair injustice, which is why my wife disrespects the flag. And she said, I have attended several flag burning ceremonies in the past. He said, of course, now I find myself about to become president of the United States, and I have put my hatred aside. My wife and I look forward to becoming a country's first black family. Indeed, change is about to overwhelm the United States. Now, he made that statement. He was right about that. Absolutely.
General, I read some kind of newsletter recently about the war in Syria, I guess, and Iraq, and they said that the president was restraining some of the Air Force from making effective bombing missions. Is that any truth in that?
I have heard that many, many times, that he is restraining them, and he uses, he wants to make sure there are no civilian casualties.
Yeah.
Well, in war, there are civilian casualties, and there's no way to avoid. And if you go to war, you have to accept that premise, that there will be civilian casualties.
They go out of their way to put civilians around crucial areas.
Yeah, so that you won't hit it. That's right. Yes, is my understanding also. And then I think only 33 1/3% of the missions they were allowed, they were either allowed or ended up dropping their ordnance. The rest of them, they bring the ordnance home because when they get there, they can't drop the bombs.
So they bring the bombs home.
Yeah. So, it's fighting the war with your hands tied.
We've got to get the word out of what's going on. We do not need another 70,000 Muslims brought into this country, and we need to let people know and start calling and writing our congressmen and our U.S. congressmen, our U.S. senators, our state Congress representatives, and our state senators. And we need to get the word out immediately on what's going on in these countries where Obama is bringing in, or somebody has brought in more and more Muslims, and he's trying to do the same thing here. There's no need for that, especially when he doesn't want to bring the Christian that are suffering into this country. So call that number right now, 893-2444. Once again, that number is 893-2444, and we'll send you a summary if you want. We'll send you the articles that were published to substantiate all of these charges about Muslim sexual abuse gangs and all of that stuff. It's unbelievable what is happening, and that our president wants to push this and bring in 70,000 more Muslims.
And for those who are watching the program, and if you haven't really paid attention to what's been going on in this country, the time is now that you start paying attention, because you're about to lose your country. Governor Lamb, he's no longer governor, but he was a governor in Colorado. He listed 10 things that will cause this country to be destroyed. And he said, if I wanted to destroy this country, here are 10 things I would do. Let me just very quickly name some of them, and then see if it sounds like they're talking about us. He says, first of all, we must first make America a bilingual, bicultural country.
Yeah, they're
We've
doing
already
that.
talked about it. That's right. That's right. Let them speak the language that they want to speak. You know, he says you can have a bilingual society, but you can't have a bilingual country.
Yeah, yeah.
He went on to say, I would then invent multiculturalism and encourage immigrants to maintain their own culture. Again, going right down the path.
We're doing that.
We're doing that. And the third, we can make the United States a Hispanic Quebec. And with the open border and the number of people who have come to us from Mexico, the number of Hispanics in Guatemala and places down there, we're doing that, it seems to me. And then the fourth one is, having done all of this, I would make our fastest growing demographic group the least educated. A lot of schools are not capable of teaching Spanish and other languages like the big schools in the big cities. So a lot of these people are simply dropping out and working to live. And then the fifth thing, very quickly, was I would then give the big foundations and the big businesses, encourage them to give these efforts a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
And that has happened from a lot of our major companies. 6, I would establish dual citizenship and promote divided loyalties. Well, the diversity is the divided loyalty, and that has happened. A common enemy threatens our liberty. Yet, all of these bonds together are not strong enough to overcome 2 factors: local patriotism and geographical conditions that nurture political divisions. Now, it's high time the people in America became patriotic again and made this country great.
General, we're about out of time. I appreciate you being here and sharing these thoughts with us. And call that number to get your letter and your DVD, and that number is 893-2444. And we appreciate you being here. Everyone is important in order to keep our country strong. And so tune in again next week for the rest of the news.